Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Birmingham. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are today, and wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I invite you this Thursday evening for a book discussion at 6:30 p.m. on Brett Archibald's Alone, Overboard in the Indian Ocean, an epic tale of wrestling with the paradox and ambiguity that we welcome here at this church. Our altar flowers this morning are in memory of David R. Baker, who passed away a year ago yesterday. We lift up Lois and his family and friends as they remember him on this anniversary. To all who are here this morning, welcome home.
If you would like to comment or participate in our service, especially during the sharing of joys and sorrows, please use the chat feature in YouTube. We have a lot of new adult enrichment opportunities coming up, including a discussion today after church about the Creek people with Rob Collins. And there's a discussion of Breathe by Imani Perry with Reverend Julie next week. If you'd like to see all the offerings and or sign up for anything, please check it out at bit.ly/UUCB Spring, and UUCBS is in caps, and I'll put that in our chat feature today. Please check out this morning's announcements. The prelude prepares us for worship. At this time of balance, at this time of awakening, we celebrate Astera, the spring equinox. We honor the fertile earth. We honor the warming breezes. We honor the waxing light. We honor the nurturing rain. Welcome spring, new life to bring, to land, to us, to all. Welcome spring, rebirth we sing, within and round us all.
Our church is supported by those who call our church home and by those who support the efforts of our church to change the world for the better. We share our cash plate every Sunday with organizations whose work reflects UU values to care for marginalized persons, advocate for real and systemic change, defend our environment, and promote justice and equity for all. This month's Share the Plate recipient is Bridge Ministries, a nonprofit organization that works to prevent homelessness by providing direct emergency assistance to at-risk individuals and families in the greater Birmingham area. During this time of social distancing and online worship, please know that church expenses continue. Therefore, we very much appreciate you continuing to pay your pledge or offer your donation by either mailing a check to the church office or by using PayPal or Venmo. Our Venmo account is at UUCBham. Please designate whether your offering is for UUCB or for Bridge Ministries. Thank you for your generous support of our church and our Share the Plate recipient. May we give in love and in hope.
As we enter our meditative space this morning, we make room for those in our community who are mourning or celebrating. To do this together in beloved community is part of what it means to be together as a congregation. We lift up Lois Gada Baker on this anniversary of David R. Baker's death. The flowers here on the altar are a memorial to him. Please keep Lois and their family and friends in your thoughts and prayers this week as they continue to remember David. We also celebrate with those in our community who are acknowledging special accomplishments. We celebrate with Evan Searcy, who completed the tests and is now a black belt. Congratulations, Evan. We also congratulate Stella and Calliope Tarrant, who are winning medals every weekend in their mountain biking feats. Please congratulate Stella and Calliope as well. Using the chat feature in YouTube, by speaking it aloud, or by hearing it on your heart, please give voice to what is on your heart today. Please join me in a spoken meditation followed by a moment of silence. Today's meditation was written by Reverend Stephen Schick. Early spring awakens, memories of a deeper cold and hopes of a warmer wetness, sprouting seeds and budding branches. Gray trees on gray sky screen eyes from all that lies waiting. The color of a million flowers, the feathers of migrating songbirds, the blossoming smiles of friends. Soon we will no longer look to the night stars to guide us. Soon the path will be lit and our task certain. In the warming days, we will plant our future, uprooting useless skeletons of last year's harvest, breaking the clods of indifference, carefully pulling the weeds of neglect so that roots can stretch. Before the harvest moon rises and we wait again, images of still distant summer days awaken thoughts of a time when all is done that can be done. Then the harvest, then the transformation, then the baking, then the bread. All we know and love is in this cycle. All that has been or will be is in this loaf. Take it, break it, give thanks, and pass it on. Blessed be. David Baker's last communication to his family was that he was A-OK. This special meditative music performed by the choir is in memory of him.
All shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well, all shall be well, all things shall be well.
Good morning. Will the children please come forward? Tomorrow, March 22nd, is World Water Day. Every day, people wake up to very different experiences with water. For me, I am lucky enough to wake up and use a restroom with running water. I'm able to wash my face, take a drink of water, and make coffee. My water is always running, clean and fresh. and I get to choose whether it's hot or cold. But for so many people, that is a very different reality. 768 billion, in fact. That is the same number of people who live in Europe. But these people do not live in Europe. They are people of color who live in Africa and Asia, many of whom are children, most women and girls. One of those women, Sabina, has been waking up at sunrise every day since she was 9 years old. She begins her day by washing in a small tub, one about this size. And now that she's a mother, she also washes her children in the tub. They have no shower or bath, just a small tub with water from the evening before. Once she has washed, she begins her 2-mile journey to the river to get water. Her walk is not an easy one. She is in the desert, and the heat is unbearable. The trail she walks is covered with rocks and large thorns, as well as dangerous animals such as snakes. Once she arrives at the river, she sits for about an hour, and she digs, collecting the cleanest water she can find. And although the water looks clean, it's not. And it is thought that every family in these areas has lost at least one family member to waterborne illnesses. And these are illnesses that we could easily avoid with clean water. Now, Sabina straps on 70 pounds worth of water. Just so you can understand, it's about 8 of these. And she returns the 2 miles back home. Sabina's back aches as she walks, and by the time she is home, she is suffering a great deal. So then she rests for a while, and she eats a little, and then she makes the trip all over again. Sabina must make these walks for her family. She has made these walks while pregnant and while sick. Sabina, like so many other women in the area, cannot read or write because getting water is more important than schooling. Tomorrow, during World Water Day, I ask you to think about Sabina and all the other women and children like her who have to walk for water to survive. And I challenge you to think of ways that we could help. And I invite you to reach out to me, and that can be by email or Facebook message, or you can even give me a call and share your ideas with me. Thank you so much for listening, and please join me in singing our song.
One, each person is worthwhile, to be kind in all you do. 3, we help each other learn. 4, and search for what is true. 5, all people get a vote. 6, build a just and peaceful world. 7, we take care of the earth. That will bring us back to me and you too.
Homophones make sermons confusing. For the sake of clarity, I'm going to use the terms rabbit and HARE interchangeably so that we aren't mistaken on a discussion of HAIR. Hares and rabbits are, in fact, 2 different species. With that disclaimer in mind, I'd like to begin this morning with a story from the pagan tradition in honor of Ustra today. Once upon a time, the animal kingdom gathered together for a meeting in a flurry of great excitement. There was to be a very special party, and a very special guest was coming to meet them. The very special guest was none other than the goddess herself, and every creature wanted to give her a very special gift. Now, some of the animals were very rich and some were very poor, but off they went to prepare their gifts, for only the very, very best would do for the goddess. Hare was very, very excited. He dearly loved the goddess, and although he was very poor, he had a generous heart. He was going to give her the very finest gift he could find. Hare rushed home to see what he could find to give to the goddess. He looked everywhere, in the cupboards and under the bed, but there was nothing. Even the larder was empty. He had absolutely nothing to give her, except for one thing. On the shelf in the larder was a single egg. And that was it. It was the only thing he had left. Hare gently took the egg out of the larder and lovingly decorated it and took it to the party. Hare was very worried. All the other animals gave their gifts of gold and silver and precious jewels, and all Hare had was the single egg. Eventually, all the gifts had been given, and Hare was the very, very last. Hare very shyly presented the goddess with the egg. She took it and looked at him and saw the true spirit of Hare. And there and then the goddess appointed Hare as her very special animal, because Hare had given away everything he had. And this is a story we tell over and over to remember the tradition of the spring. This is but one version of the story of how Ustra became a holiday. Another story tells how the goddess was trying to heal an injured bird and thus had to turn it into a hare to save its life. But once a year, on the vernal equinox, she allowed the hare to lay eggs, as it had done in its previous form. For centuries, scholars of mythological stories have argued about Ustra, the ancient Anglo-Saxon festival involving a goddess, a cute, fuzzy-wuzzy rabbit or hare, and eggs. The original text where the goddess Ustra is mentioned, from a 7th century author named Bede, has been argued as being invented by Bede for centuries. It doesn't help matters that the word Ostara seems to be entirely invented by Jacob Grimm in a mythological treatise describing the text from the 7th century, although modern folks have come to a consensus that he was merely Germanizing the Anglo-Saxon name. Even now, there is a fight among nerds on how to describe the festival on Wikipedia, the public encyclopedia, and contrary websites have arisen to prove various points. So to summarize, Ustra is mentioned in the 7th century, renamed Ostara in the 19th century, and doubted and marginalized as a legitimate holiday for centuries in between. There is very little historical evidence for this holiday, until that is, of an archaeological discovery describing a goddess by that name from the year 150 of the Common Era. To quote scholar Philip Shaw, the etymological connections of Ustra's name suggests that her worshippers saw her geographical and social relationship with them as more central than any functions she may have had. In other words, she was worshipped for being in relationship with her people. Now, Shaw seems to say this as a way of downplaying her power and prominence, much like the recent dallying over whether to refer to a certain celebrity as First Lady Jill Biden or Dr. Jill Biden. Much of the rest of the connection to hares and eggs seems to be a bit more modern evolution of Ustra's story. For some in our community, it's tempting to focus on the rabbits and the eggs at springtime as a way of removing what feels like problematic elements. However, the egg is actually one of the oldest symbols in Christendom, dating from the 1st century, symbolizing the rebirth or enlightenment of the new believer. And the egg has been worshipped since the beginning of time all over the world. Decorated eggs in China and Ukraine predate the Jesus story. Imagine the Neolithic peoples who discovered if you didn't eat the eggs, a new bird would emerge. What a discovery that must have been. I love to imagine that moment when these ancient sacred moments were created. A small group of people sitting around a campfire, sharing stories about why it rains or what is the purpose of humanity. Stories they had heard and passed down from their ancestors to their children. When we think back to the lives of our ancestors, to the lives of people thousands of years ago, most people lived pretty rough existences. They worked hard, ate little, and died young. They had little say in their own life choices. They were focused on survival. And yet, despite all that, they made room to worship gods and goddesses or beings larger than themselves. They created complicated narratives about their views of the world and how it worked. And they were intentional about remembering those who came before them. Like us, our ancestors wanted a chance to feast and celebrate every good moment they could find. And such is the birth of so many of our holidays. Our holidays are a chance to break the monotony of our work, our time, and our habits by acknowledging a season, a person, or a sacred moment. Many of our spring holidays encapsulate that joy of spring, Ostara, or the Jewish festival of Purim, and Nowruz, the Persian New Year, celebrated today by 23 countries and all of the folks who trace their ancestry to those communities. With bright flowers, spring cleaning, and community celebrations, these holidays are all reminders that we can shake off the dead of winter to emerge into a bountiful spring. We have been living into this pandemic for over a year now. Our lives, while much easier than those of our ancestors, are already fraught with modern complications, challenged more so by this pandemic that never seems to end. We cannot also deprive ourselves of these holidays as well. We need to celebrate holidays which are life-giving, to give ourselves a break from the heavier issues in our lives and in our world. No matter how challenging this past winter or the year 2020 is, that never seems to leave us, the hope of spring is upon us. Let us look for those symbols of rebirth and renewal to remind us that hope is embedded in tomorrow. When we as Unitarian Universalists approach these spring holidays, in many ways, we are searching, like the hare searching for a gift for the goddess. We look in all the books and on all the websites and struggle to find holidays in the spring that feel meaningful to us and that are not dredged with complications of our thoughts. Often it feels like we don't know what it is we are searching for, because the traditions surrounding us from our childhood seemed old-fashioned or couched in a theology that is not our own. We tend to water down our spring traditions so much that we wash away the symbolism of our ancestors. Today is a celebration of only one of those spring holidays. Our pagan folk in our church would offer many suggestions to you for how to celebrate this ancient holiday, from making hot cross buns, which symbolize the four corners of the earth, the four elements making up nature, earth, air, fire, and water, to eating cakes and ale or lamb, or by decorating and hiding eggs. Each of these traditions is laced in meaning making by connecting with our ancestors over the centuries and with every other person celebrating along with us. It is important that we lift up these holidays that some folks at our church celebrate for solidarity, to break the monotony, to join them in the fun. It's important that we make time for these traditions, even silly ones, hiding eggs for our children, decorating eggs, eating eggs, even if they're made of candy or chocolate. It's in our meaning-making traditions that we connect with every person who was, is, or will be. Because even if the way we make meaning is different, the drive to make meaning is a universal human need. However you celebrate today, celebrate. Celebrate the birth of spring, the hope of tomorrow, the rebirth emerging from our earth each spring. Acknowledge the ancient symbols that held so much meaning for our ancestors. Let us make meaning, and let us celebrate the beauty of making meaning together. Blessed be. May you be held in the heart of community until we are joyfully reunited in person.
Please join us in our closing hymn.
We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves. would be one in building for tomorrow a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
May you know fully and deeply the blessings of each of your heart's seasons, the inward turning of winter, springtime's lush renewal, the effortless steady growth of summer, and autumn's rich harvest. May your passage from season to season be blessed, eased by the hands to hold and the light of love to guide you on.
In the toughest time you ever knew, the only thing that you could do was carry the flame. Sickness spreading through the land, you held your spirit in your hands and carried the flame. When storms and sorrows gathered round, you raised your head and you stayed your ground. You carried the flame. Through endless days of the hardest living, you kept on loving, kept on giving. You kept on and carried the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know. Let it glow. Carry the flame. And when the day is done at last, we take on the spark you've passed and carry the flame. From hand to hand we send it on, the kindling hope of a rising dawn. In a song we carry the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know. Let it glow. Carry the flame. We are nurses, doctors, teachers. We are children, parents, preachers, and we all carry the flame. We are scientists and cargo packers, farmers, singers, grocery stackers, young and old. We carry the flame. Carry the flame, raise it high, send its beacon through the sky. Keep it strong and shining through the pain. Let it rise and let it grow. Let it light the world, you know. Let it glow. Carry the flame. Let it glow. Carry the flame.